Hi everyone, this is BreazeHome version 5.0. This is the mortgage calculator team made up of Rafael Leal, Rafael Fernandez, Felipe Zuniga, Lelia Nunez, and Carlos Lores. Our product owner is Masoud Sajadi, and you can contact him at sajadi@cs.fiu.edu. In this video, we will be speaking about how to install and maintain the mortgage calculator. Before you begin installing all the different parts needed for BreazeHome, there's some info that I need to tell you about. This here is the wiki for most information regarding the BreazeHome application. If you want more information on installing, you'll want to click on the home page. You'll want to click on contribution, set up your development environment, and then vagrant. Please be aware that information on the wiki can change over time in the upcoming semester and may be labeled differently. When on the Vagrant wiki page, you'll want to scroll down to where it says Breeze Vagrant Tutorial, and these will be the general steps you'll follow when installing the Vagrant. One of the first things that you'll want to do is to install Vagrant and VirtualBox. To install Vagrant, you'll want to go to the Vagrant website, which is vagrantup.com. A quick Google search will also find you that, and click download. You'll want to download the most advanced version for the OS you're currently going to be using for development. It'll be the same procedure with VirtualBox. You just click on download VirtualBox, pick your host, and download it and install it. Next thing you will want to do is download the Breeze Vagrant repo, which holds all the files needed for the Vagrant. Or you can find that right here on the wiki, and if you open it up, which I have on a new tab, we'll have the files for the Vagrant. So when you're on the repo, you're either going to want to download the zip file right here and save it on your desktop, such as I have right here. This contains all the files. Or if you're good with Git, you could also clone it into a folder that you choose. If you want to learn more on how to install with Git through the command line, you could just do a quick Google search, cloning Git through command line. Click on the first link and it will have a bunch of information on how to clone. If you also want to install Git to be able to use on the command line, you can Google install Git, click on the first link, and I will have more information for you. I'm putting it here on the desktop. I'll place it here, extract it, and since I already have it there, it's asking me to replace it, but if you don't have it, it will now be on the desktop or wherever you choose to put it. After downloading the Vagrant repo, you'll want to fork the Breeze repos needed for your project. For our team, what we needed mostly was the API Django repo and the desktop repo, but the chat repo can also be forked. In order to fork a repo, you'll want to go to the Breeze fork with the Breeze header, click on the one you want. On the upper right, you should see a button that says fork. You click on that, and then you fork the repository. In my case, it's already forked, and when you go back to your dashboard, you'll have your own personal version of that repository right here. And then you would just do that with whatever other repositories you need from the project. So you're going to want to open your command line, or in this case, if you're using Windows, you're going to want to open PowerShell. On the command line, you're going to want to go to the location where you place your Vagrant repo. Make sure it's the Vagrant repo, not the Breeze repos. In the Vagrant repo, once you're there, in my case, if I were to look for it, I would type cdc users, fill in the rest. That's where I have my Breeze Vagrant, and I would go there. Once I'm there, you're going to want to run this command called vagrant up. When you begin to run that command, you'll see a lot of things start to begin installing. It'll take a couple minutes, but once that finishes, you should see that there's a message right before it ends that tells you add your new public key to your account on Git. If you're on Linux or Unix, these formattings might be there, but in the case for Windows, they're not. So you're going to want to start copying right here where it starts on S, where it says SSH. You start copying here until the very end where it's the closing bracket. You're going to want to copy that, go to your Git, click on your settings, SSH keys, and then add the key. You can name the key what you want. In this case, I named it vagrant test windows. Paste the key that you copied, add it, and then go back to the Windows PowerShell or command line. And this time, you're going to want to run, actually before you continue, you're going to want to run this command here. Vagrant plugin install vagrant vb guest. Sorry, I missed the dash right here. And that could take a few minutes. So after that has finished installing, you'll want to type vagrant provision. Vagrant provision will make it continue off where it left off before when you first ran vagrant up. So you run it. It's going to ask you for your Git username. You put in the first part without the email. Press enter and then let it load and do its thing. Alright, so once vagrant provision is finished downloading, you should be close to finishing. Once it's done, you type in vagrant SSH and you should get a little menu like that. And then once you're there, you're going to want to check and type ls, make sure that you see that shared is there, and then you're going to want to go into ls and check that all your files are there. If by any chance it's empty, you're going to want to exit, so you type exit, and then you're going to want to type vagrant reload. But only do this if your shared directory is empty. So once you do vagrant reload, you would just type in vagrant SSH again, and then you'll see this little menu, and then again you would just make sure that in the shared drive, in the shared directory, all the files are in there, and then you can move on to the next part. For more information on Linux basics and certain commands to use in Linux, on the same Vagrant wiki page, you could see these videos created by Daniel Garcia with more information on the different commands you can use on Linux. So once you vagrant SSH, you're going to want to go to the directory that contains the BreazeHome dev. Once you're in BreazeHome dev, you're going to want to type sudo docker-compose up-d, and that will begin to download all the different Docker files and start setting up all the Docker units that are going to be running your BreazeHome dev environment. If you want to learn more about Docker, you can go to the wiki page for the Vagrant, and at the bottom you see that there's a Docker Composer tutorial that explains all the different things about Docker and how they start and stop their services and any extra information you would need for Docker. So once the Docker finishes compiling and building all the different Docker units, as you can see here, if you type in sudo docker dash compose ps, and you run it. It gives you a list of all the different uh, repos running. So if we wanted to go to the desktop, which is the front end, we would go to localhost 9000. So if you go here and you type in localhost 9000, you get here. Now if you want to make a change, say I wanted to make a change to the mortgage calculator, and I wanted to change that title, I could go to the code here in the views. We'd find the header. So here's the header for that, and we would write home. Save it, go back. See, it hasn't shown up, but if you refresh, you see that our change has been made and put there. So just a little bit of information. Once you finish downloading everything and the Docker is built and running, you're going to want IDE. You could use whichever you want. Atom and Bracket are pretty nice. I think Atom's a little better, but Bracket's what I have installed right now. But in order to change the code, you're going to want to go to wherever you have your BreazeVagrant file. You go to the BreazeVagrant file, you go to the folder called BreazeHome Dev, and then you're going to want to open whichever folder it is you need to work on. So if you got to work on the front end, you open the desktop. Right here I have brackets. I would click open as brackets project, and it would open me all the files. The most important ones for the mortgage calculator that you probably want to know is mortgagecalculator.html, mortgagecalculator.js, and mortgagecalculator.scss. These could be found right here. If you want to find any HTML, it'll be here in the views. This has the views for everything related to the front end. So if you want to go to mortgage calculator, you find the mortgage calculator, you'd open it, and it would have all the HTML. Now if you wanted to change the styling on some of these pages, you just have to look on the front name. We've made it so if you just look at the front end, you'll know where it's at. If it says mortgage calculator, you want to find the mortgage calculator SAS page, open it, and you'll have all the stylings used on the mortgage calculator page. Now if you want to change the controller, you're going to want to go to scripts, open controllers, and find mortgage calculator, and this will have all the code for the controller needed, and that's used in the mortgage calculator page. If you want to change any of the words that are currently used in mortgage calculator, you would go to scripts, open up translations, and there's two JSON files. The first one contains English and then Spanish. So if you want to change one of the English translations, you'd open that up, go down to whichever mortgage dictionary you need, and then either add to it or change it as you want. If you wanted to add another dictionary, you would just, after the comma, name it mortgage test, add the semicolon, give it that, and then after the last semicolon, you give it a comma. That's how you would continue making another one. And if you wanted to change something, you would just go to what you want, empty it, change it, and that's how you change any sentences going on in the mortgage calculator or in BreazeHome in general. So if you want to contact me or anybody else on my team for the mortgage calculator, you have all their information right here, our LinkedIn's as well. Do make sure that if you do contact one of us, you either send an email or a text message. Thank you.